Hi everyone, this is Mary Ann Esau for EDL 853, Module 3, Special Education Interviews. So for the purpose of this assignment, I went to the school where I had just actually stopped teaching. It's a special day school in Wichita, and I've taught there for 8 years. I interviewed my principal, and he had been a SPED teacher for 10 years, a special education coordinator for, I think, 10 years, and this is his second year as a building principal. The teacher I interviewed is someone I've worked with for 8 years. She's taught SPED for 6 years. She's worked as a targeted case manager, and she actually was the para in my room my first couple years of teaching. And I also interviewed my current para educator that I have worked with for 4 years in my room. And then I also put myself on there just because I've been a SPED teacher for 8 years, and I feel like I have some things that I'll interject about what I think as well. So the first question I asked was, what is the most challenging part of SPED and why? The principal just kind of stated that the unique behaviors and challenges for each student is difficult. He deals with behaviors on a daily basis, and I mean, we all do, but each of the 140 students that we have has special needs and special behaviors and special challenges that we have to kind of learn and know when we work with them so that we can work with them effectively. And then parents and paras are a challenge sometimes too. And I would echo that as well. To me, the big three, I guess, would be parents, paras, and paperwork are the hardest things. Just because a parent and a para can be your biggest ally and your biggest asset in SPED, but also I've had parents and paras that make your life a lot more difficult. And so, just training your paras is essential to success. And the teacher had stated that behavior and drama is one of the challenges, and also the parents, paras, paperwork. The behaviors and drama happen because, we have 140 kids, and, they're in a special day school for a reason, and sometimes we have behaviors, and, drama goes with that. My para stated that her challenge is not knowing about each student, like about their disability in particular. So we have students that are literally 1 in a million, and not knowing about each specific disability is something that was hard for her. So I think maybe as a teacher, I would have to train her better next time, just to learn more about them. Like, for example, if you don't know how to work with someone with Fragile X syndrome, for example, just learning about that and learning about that disability might help her or all the paras be successful. In terms of the most rewarding part of SPED, really, they kind of said the same thing, just kind of seeing the light bulb go on, seeing something that's new. The principal said, light bulb moments, seeing success in small things, and employment. One of the successes this year that we've seen is that I actually had a student on my caseload that for the first time in her entire 21 years of life, she spoke at school. And so she had never spoken before, and this year she has talked nonstop, and it's been pretty amazing to see. The teacher stated just like learning new things is a big deal, and also transferring your skills from, generalizing your skills from the classroom to home, to work, to different settings, which is a big deal because a lot of students don't do that well. That's a big skill to learn. The para stated that learning a new job skill and remembering their job roles is very important. In my building, we do a ton of CBI, and paras, their job is to take students on CBI jobs, and so that's a huge part of her role. In terms of advice, in terms of supervising special ed staff, the principal just said, be firm, realize that, you're in charge, and advocate for those people. And as the principal, you have to, the buck stops there, you have to be the bottom line, and I think that the teacher has to, work with the principal and make sure that they're on the same page. The teacher stated to be honest and open with those staff members and work together. And the teacher kind of has the last say in that matter because the teacher is the one who deals with the parents and the students all the time, and they're the ones that kind of have to answer for what is done and said in the classroom, and so it's important that they kind of have the last word. And then the para stated that you just have to be open and honest, and then trust that the paras can do a good job. And again, a great para is essential to success. And I've fortunately had some great paras, and have had some maybe not so great paras. And so I think for me, just training paras from the very beginning and just letting them know my expectations from day one has been essential. In terms of working effectively with parents, I think for me, the principal stated that you have to be honest and communicate with them effectively, which is, just essential in any relationship, really. He said, don't promise the moon. Don't over-promise something. Don't say, oh yeah, we'll get you to do swimming when that might not be an option at that moment. You have to make sure that what you say to them is realistic. And, you try to please the parents if you can. You at least have to make an effort to do what they ask, because they know the kid the best, and it's important that you, as the teacher, know that and try to do what's best for them. The teacher stated to be intentional about what you say. And one of the reasons she said that was that she has stated that sometimes, you say certain things, sometimes you might leave certain things out. One of her examples was that she had a student that would have restroom accidents. The parents got really upset and embarrassed, and sometimes she wouldn't necessarily say, oh yeah, the kid had another accident, because they would get upset and embarrassed. And, we just kind of dealt with it, and it wasn't a big deal, but she opted not to tell the parents that because she didn't want them to feel like it was their fault. And again, you have to work together with parents. She had stated that they know the kid the best, and so, you have to make sure that you respect that. And then be professional always. You will probably get yelled at. I've been yelled at many times as a SPED teacher. Why doesn't my kid know how to read? Why is whatever, everything. There's so many different things. Why don't they have a job yet? Or, there's so many things that parents can kind of get upset about, and you as the teacher or the principal have to remain calm and professional. And the para stated that they need to let the teacher or the principal talk with parents. And that's something that I like to stress in my classroom, just because again, I have to be the one that answers to the parents. I have to be the one that has my name on the IEP, and I need to know kind of what's said with parents, especially maybe difficult parents. And I've had paras call parents before and say one thing, and then I say something else, and it just doesn't work out well. So the paras need to kind of hopefully step back a little bit and know that maybe that's not their role at that time. Reg Ed teachers, okay, we do not have any Reg Ed in my building, so this is kind of a hypothetical at this point. But the principal had said, always advocate for the students, and obviously that's the most important thing. We're always there. We're there for them always. We need to be collaborative, and we need to be transparent and honest when working with Reg Ed teachers. And, maybe explain to them certain disabilities, or maybe explain to them why we need a certain thing done the way we need it done, to kind of make sure that the students' needs are met, and maybe explaining to Reg Ed teachers could help that out. The teacher stated to be honest and, again, advocate for what's best for students. And then the para stated that they need to do what's asked by both the SPED and the Reg Ed teacher, but knowing that the SPED teacher is their supervisor, and knowing that the SPED teacher has specific reason to do certain things, so they kind of have to go with what the SPED teacher says kind of first. The advice that they have for first-year administrators, the principal said in terms of SPED, to get to know the SPED laws and procedures. There are tons of different things that they need to learn. And he said that you need to learn as much as you can about the specific students, and maybe even specific disabilities depending on your school. And he said you'll work with SPED a lot, so just kind of work on getting comfortable in that role. The teacher said to support SPED teachers because sometimes, sometimes in SPED we don't feel supported necessarily, and it's important to feel like we have someone in our corner. They said that the principal needs to be collaborative and ask questions. It's okay not to know certain things. Ultimately, the SPED teacher knows the SPED kids better, and it's okay. But it's okay for the principal to ask questions and to be open-minded and to just kind of work on learning things. The para stated that the principal needs to come into the SPED room because sometimes that doesn't always happen, just to see what we do and to trust the fact that, we do kind of know what we're doing. Not all the time, but, we try. And then characteristics, it's kind of a similar question, but the principal stated they need to be open-minded, they need to trust the SPED staff, and they need to learn. And being a learner, he said, was the most important thing because there's so many things in SPED that you just don't know unless you've done them. And just being able to be willing to learn is essential. The teacher said, learn SPED laws. The principal might not know certain things, and again, that's okay, but we have to encourage that principal to learn about SPED. And just see what we do every day. We don't have the same kind of classroom as anyone else, and especially in functional SPED where I am, it's a lot different. And so she had stated to evaluate us differently than Reg Ed. We are evaluated the same way that a Reg Ed teacher is evaluated, but it's a completely different classroom, it's a completely different way of teaching, and it's important that the principal kind of knows that so they can kind of evaluate and change things accordingly. The para said just be open-minded and learn all you can, so they kind of echoed that there. Overall, I think a lot of the answers were similar. The para had a different perspective for sure than the teacher and the principal. And I identified with the teacher the most at this point just because I am a SPED teacher and I've worked in this particular building with this particular teacher for a long time. Paras in general, I think, need more training because of the fact that anybody can be a para. In our district, you can be a para with a high school diploma. And so, just not having any experience in the SPED world is a disadvantage from the get-go. So paras in general need more training. And I also think just, collaboration, honesty, and willing to learn are keys to success for a new principal. And again, they just have to be willing to try and willing to learn. And it's okay for them not to know the answers right away, but they need to work on that. My thoughts and projections about my future as a principal in terms of SPED. Honestly, I've worked with people with disabilities for 16 years at this point. So for me, I'm not necessarily nervous about the SPED aspect of it. I am nervous more about the lacking of the Reg Ed experience. So for me, I guess that's where my concerns are. In terms of SPED, though, brushing up on a few things like the elementary side of it or maybe the state assessment side of things. In terms of elementary would be something I'd need to brush up on. But again, I think overall, in terms of SPED, I feel that's actually where I feel pretty confident. So, I guess for me, it's the Reg Ed experience. I think that's it, and thank you for watching, and have a great day. Thanks.